Hello, welcome to the next lesson on Fortnite. This is a lesson about audiences because the three areas we're looking at for Fortnite are media contexts, media industries and media audiences. This is the second of three lessons. The first one's about industry and this one's about audience, and the last one will be a combination of the two. But for now, we're going to look at the learning objectives, which are to understand different methods of audience classification, and also to classify an audience for the set text using the media theory we learn in the session. So, what do we mean by audience classification? Well, very simply, it's about putting audiences into groups that helps us understand what the appeals of the media are. So, for each of the following media products, can you give some information about exactly who is being targeted? Who are the audience? So, there's four here. The network Radio 4, the casual video game Animal Crossing, the TV reality show Love Island, and the film based on a video game Sonic the Hedgehog. So who do you think the audience are for each of these four products? Give you a hint, think of the different criteria that you would use for putting people into groups. In other words, do not answer everybody. What different criteria do you use for putting people into groups? Well, more than likely for that last question, you used a system of demographic classification. Demographics defines people based on certain characteristics like their age, their gender, their income, their education, and their jobs. Media producers define and categorize their audience through demographic profiles. Why is that useful? Well, it's because you can largely look at the things that people have in common that they like and don't like. So you might say there are certain things that appeal to men but not women. There are certain things that are of in interest and will be suitable and appropriate for young people that wouldn't be for older people, and vice versa. There might be certain texts and media products that can be affordable to you if you have a high disposable income, and not so much if you have a lower income. Likewise with your occupation, that might suggest something about your level of education, or it might suggest something about your interests and what you like. So, using demographics is a good way of understanding people. In fact, one area of demographics, people's income, is used a huge amount to define audiences. PAMCO, an audience measurement for publishers company, uses social grades as a system of defining audiences based on their occupation. And this system is the main way of categorising newspaper and magazine audiences. It's been done for years and years and years. Let's have a look at the categories they put people in. Well, there's only 6: A, B, C1, C2, Ds and Es. A's being upper middle class people, top management, bankers, lawyers, doctors and other professionals. B's are the middle classes, middle management, teachers, many creatives, people in the media themselves. C1s are the lower middle class, which would count as office supervisors, junior managers, nurses, specialist clerical staff. Then you have C2s, which are the skilled working classes. This would be tradespersons, maybe sort of plumbers, people with a specific skill like plastering, so on and so forth. Then you've got the Ds, which are the working class. That would be semi-skilled and unskilled manual workers, so labourers, but also potentially people in the service industry, maybe in things, elements of things like call centres, depending on the complexity of the call centre. And then the Es are the people at the lowest income. These will be unemployed people, students, pensioners, those on maybe casual work or 0 hours contracts. And the way it works is that the grades are often grouped. So you would say a media product targets perhaps ABC1s, okay? Or perhaps you would say, well, this media product targets C2s, Ds and Es. Sometimes a little bit more specific. Well, this product maybe is, if it's for people with a lot of money, this targets A's and B's, okay? Now, there are a group missing from this, and that is the upper classes, but only around 2% of the UK population is defined as upper class, and this group is not separated by this scheme. Now, using demographics like age, gender and income to categorise an audience doesn't always give us the best results, okay? Why not? Well, the answer is actually staring you in the face. It's the fact that what do we learn about someone's personality just by knowing their age and their gender and how much money they have? Not a lot, really. I mean, everybody is different. Everyone has different interests and beliefs and ideologies. So why does just knowing that someone is a man in their 20s mean that they have completely different interests to a woman in their 40s. Just because someone has a middle class existence, does that mean they have incredibly different tastes to someone who has working class existence? So it doesn't tell us enough about their personality. It doesn't tell us enough about their needs and who they are as a person. In fact, if you look at that last category, E, people at the lowest level of income, you've got in there unemployed people, students and pensioners. Are they likely to all have the same interests? Probably not. So demographics by itself doesn't necessarily work, which is why advertisers developed psychographic profiles. Now, psychographic profiles are ways of defining audiences by how they think and to consider their values and their attitudes and their lifestyle. So we're going to explore 3 of these. First one is called the VALS Segmentation, which is a method of classification that has a survey on its website, which will tell you the category that you belong to. So this is what the homepage looks like. There's the web address. You're going to take the survey. Okay. So what you do is you read each statement that you're given. There's 40 questions in total, okay, and you just decide how far you agree or disagree with the statement. When you're asked about your age, it doesn't actually allow for anything younger than 18, so just choose the category 18 to 24 to give the most accurate reading. And when you're asked about education, choose high school or equivalent. One of the last questions on this is about household income. And you are given a choice of about 12 different categories. In order to answer this question, you might need to Google what your household income is, which is how much the main earners in your household make, added together. It needs to be in dollars, but it needs to be roughly. So to give you an idea, the average UK combined income is about £40,000, which is $53,000. So give a rough estimate there. And then once you've completed all 40 questions, you will be given your VALS type. It will give you a primary type and a secondary type, just at the top here. And once you click on those, it will tell you the characteristics of that type. So there are about 7 or 8 different types of people that VALS identifies. Once you've done the questionnaire, think about which group you belong to. Make a note of it, as well as the typical characteristics of that group. Let's have another look at another group or another method of psychographic classification. This one is called consumer groups. These are split into 6 different categories: activators, traditionalists, achievers, seekers, pragmatics and constraints. Some of them are very similar to the VALS segmentations. So make notes on each of the different segments of the audience. And as you're doing that, have a think. What different media products would appeal to each of these different types of people? And be as specific as you can. Not just say, well, these people would like video games or these people like newspapers, because there are lots of video games that are very different from one another. A game like BioShock is incredibly different to a game like Candy Crush. A game like FIFA is vastly different to a game like Grand Theft Auto. So think about some specific texts. You know, the Sun newspaper, don't buy the Sun, is very different to the Daily Telegraph. The Financial Times is very different to the Mirror. So think about some specific media products that would appeal to each of these categories. And then think about the segments that the VALS segmentation put you into. What media do you consume that makes you typical of the VALS segment that you were put into in the previous questionnaire? Right, one more psychographic profile. Young and Rubicam's 4 Cs. This is a method of classification that categorises people based on their psychological needs. So Young and Rubicam are a world-leading marketing company. They devised the 4 Cs, which is the cross-cultural consumer characterisation. It's a consumer segmentation that characterises people into 7 recognisable stereotypes that reflect a set of well-known human motivations. In other words, Young and Rubicam said, look, we all have needs. Needs motivate the things we do. And therefore, we'll be able to divide everybody on the planet into 7 types of people. Which sounds a little bit audacious, but there we go. Here are the 7 types of different needs that they said that we all have. We have survival needs, escape needs, security and belonging needs, status needs, control needs, discovery needs, and enlightenment needs. And what you may have noticed is those needs become slightly more complex as you go through them. So our very first instinct, I suppose, as a baby is to have oxygen, food, warmth, and safety. And those progress maybe to the idea of needing to belong, to be part of a family, to be loved, to have friends, maybe to have respect of others and esteem from ourselves and esteem of others. Then as we become more sophisticated, we require control in our lives and the need to sort of form our own destinies and break free of institutions. And if we can do that, maybe we like to discover new things, look for things away from the mainstream and the alternative. Maybe we can look for things that are unusual and discover. And then young Rubicam believe that the most sophisticated need that a human being can have is enlightenment, to know your place in the world. Well, basically, they define all of these needs as corresponding to a stereotype, and they give them all a name. The resigned, the struggler, the mainstream, the aspirer, the succeeder, the explorer, and the reformer. So read the handout that accompanies this, which defines each of those 7 different types of people, and decide which one are you, which things in life refer to you, and what do you like, and what are your needs. So these are demographics, and psychographics are a way of defining the whole audience, but of course each type of media may have its own audience as well, and so that's why we're going to look specifically at the audiences for video games. Now, this is rather a silly meme all about the different types of video gamers, but actually there are studies into this, and there are ways of breaking up the video game audience into casual, mid-core, hardcore, pro gamer, newbie, and retro gamer. So I'll have a look at each of them and you can decide which one you are. So casual gamers have limited time or interest in games. They play the easy games. They're usually female by demographic, and they usually play apps or social networking games, things on their phone. Mid-core gamers will play lots of different types of game. They'll buy games but maybe not finish them. They just like the experience of a variety. And they're more likely to play on handheld devices such as the Wii U, PlayStation Vita, Nintendo DS, or of course the old classic Game Boy. Hardcore gamer is someone who has a lifestyle that is maybe nothing but gaming. It's something that occupies a lot of their time. They buy games, lots of them, and they endeavour to master the game objectives and become expert and prolific at those games. They may even take part in competitions, tournaments or leagues. And the difference between a hardcore gamer and a pro gamer is that you're a pro gamer, you get paid to do it. Maybe sponsorship or a salary. Particularly in places like Asia and the USA, there's a lot of people that actually will be sponsored to be gamers and monetize their gaming on platforms such as YouTube or Twitch. Then there is newbies, someone who is new to playing games in general or is new to playing a particular type of game. And then the category I think I would be most likely to fit into if I was to be a bit more into gaming, this would be the retro gamer, playing classic old games on emulators. That's where you can emulate an old arcade or console game on a desktop computer. Or some people will actually purchase the old types of console, get the arcade games in their houses if you can afford one of those, and play the old games. So there you go. 6 types of gamers. Which type are you? And when you first saw the list, did you expect to be one group and actually change your mind? Of course, how can we link all this to the set product? Who do you think is the target audience for Fortnite? Have a look into the following links below to create a profile of what you think the Fortnite player is like. So collect some information. Who is playing Fortnite? Who is being targeted by it? Now, unsurprisingly, research shows that the main demographic that the game is most popular with are males and 18 to 25-year-olds, according to research, with 25 to 34 being the next most popular range. However, this data doesn't actually take into consideration the under 18s, but new research conducted by Newzoo, a games market research company, found that 53% of Fortnite players were actually aged 10 to 25, so the age group starting at 10. What about a psychographic classification? Can you use the VALS or the 4Cs to give a psychographic classification? Well, you might have said a number of things for that question. You might have thought of mainstreamers because from the 4Cs, because the mainstream is likes brand names, likes things that are predictable, likes things that are other people are doing, likes the idea of a community as well. Or from the 4Cs, you may have even picked the Explorer because the game allows you to pick different costumes. It allows you to pick different ways of playing, different weaponry and stuff like that. It allows the game changes its setting on a regular basis. So it's quite an interesting one, Fortnite, because it has appeals to both the mainstream audience and probably to a certain extent Explorer audience as well. But do think about those other psychographic classifications. So the exam board may well ask you to identify 2 different target audiences for the game. And whilst you can bring those from across the demographic and psychographic profiles, I'm going to look specifically at an audience that might be considered secondary, but it's up for debate, and look at female gamers, because data would suggest that gaming is predominantly male pastime, but the female gamers are on the rise and are actually now represented in esports or games where there are a competitive element to them. I'll link to the video below. There's a short video for you to watch about changing attitudes and females' experiences of gaming. But let's also look at a couple of articles about this. Last month, Epic Games offered $3 million grand prize for the best Fortnite team playing in its World Cup finals. The contest was open to anyone who wanted to participate, and those who performed best in each region were invited to participate in the finals. Not a single woman made it to the final event. Is it time to start encouraging more girls to get into esports? In fact, women and girls' experiences in esports mimic those faced by women in male-dominated workplaces in several ways. For example, there are plenty of entry-level female Fortniters, but they're just not making it to the top levels. Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney estimates that 35% of the Fortnite's 250 million players are women. So why didn't any women make it to the final round of the World Cup? According to Team Bumble member Madison Mann, the negative message girls receive are the primary reasons why girls stop playing. Mann describes the type of messages a girl might receive: get back to the kitchen, girls can't play video games, girls suck at video games, and other sexist nonsense. This isn't subtle, unconscious gender bias. It's blatant bullying. Well, does this article surprise you at all or not? Okay, give reasons for your answer. You know, Tim Sweeney, the guy who created Fortnite, reckons that of those 250 million people playing, 100 million of them are female, which might be a surprise in itself. But they're not progressing through the game because of abuse for being female. Okay, so do the things in this article surprise you or not? Give reasons for your answers. Some argue that Fortnite's success is actually down to the number of females playing the game, that there aren't as many females playing other games than are playing Fortnite, and actually that those huge numbers when it comes to the audience for Fortnite is largely because of the female audience as well. So I'm going to link you to an article below here, and there's a video on the article as well. Read it and see what you think, what things surprises you, and what information makes the most sense. So just give your own thoughts and feelings and reaction to the video and the article itself. So there we go, folks. That's a kind of whistle-stop tour through the audience classification of Fortnite. It also brings up some ideas of gender as well. And so you should be able to have a decent answer to the question about who is being targeted by Fortnite. Thanks very much.